In this section, we will talk about the different ways of managing money that is borrowed, which we call a loan. This is an important topic because many of us have taken or may plan to take a loan, and we need to know how to manage it. Also, there are many examples of people working in the Gulf who are in debt and unable to repay it. This is a situation that causes stress, anxiety, and can even ruin lives. Before we start, let us do a small exercise where I will ask you a few questions. Did you borrow money before coming to Qatar or while in Qatar? How much did you borrow? Was it easy to borrow that money or was it difficult? Was it easy to pay the money back? If you borrowed money temporarily from someone, then basically you took out a loan, and this means you are in debt since you need to pay it back. Here are some terms that are useful for understanding what a loan is and what being in debt is. The first term is lender and the second term is borrower. If you took money from someone, then we are the borrower and the person who gave us the money is the lender. A lender is a person or an institution that gives money to someone who needs money. A borrower is a person who needs money and he or she goes to the lender in order to get that money. The borrower will have to return the money to the lender after a specific period of time, usually with interest, meaning that the money you pay back will usually be more than the money you borrowed. Before taking out a loan, there are three things that we need to think of: the amount of money we are borrowing, the interest rate, and when we need to pay back the money together with interest, if any. An interest rate is a percentage of the money borrowed which a borrower has to pay to the lender in addition to the amount of the loan. Before taking the loan, we must make sure we know about the rate of interest we have to pay every month. Also, we must be sure that we will be able to pay this amount after taking the loan. The amount to be paid back could be done in installments. Installments mean that you do not pay back the money owed all at once. Instead, you pay a smaller fixed amount every week, month, or a year until the full amount has been repaid. Let us see the effect of interest rate on debt. For example, Muhammad takes a 1,000 Riyal loan from Kumar. Kumar and Muhammad decide that the interest rate will be 10% of the total amount of the loan. They also decide the installment period for the loan repayment. For example, if the installment is yearly, then Muhammad will pay 1,000 Riyals to Kumar by the end of the year. In addition to that, he will pay another 10% of the total loan, which is 100 Riyals. It means that Muhammad will pay 1,100 Riyals when he pays the loan back in 1 year. Also, be aware that some lenders also charge other fees in addition to the interest rate. There should be a written agreement between the borrower and the lender so that everything is clear. This document should specify the loan amount, the interest rate, and the dates of repayment. A lot of people who migrate to Qatar from countries like India, Nepal, Bangladesh, and the Philippines borrow money either before coming to Qatar or during their stay in Qatar. Let us talk to some migrants in Doha to see why they take out loans.
Same time, families keep on demanding for the money without understanding the real picture. The expatriates here they have a unique habit. They never inform the family how they are living, what is their income, what are the difficulties they are facing. They never inform them. So, without knowing all this, families back home keep on demanding. Then what will happen? They will try to take some loan to send money.
Yeah, yeah, I will take a loan. I will pay in the agency to to spend my requirements because the agency they will spend for documents for here in Qatar.
اضطريت اني استلف فلوس عشان مصروفه هنا عشان أأمن له تذكرة الطيارة لما أروح يعني قرابة يعني السالري بتاعي 3 مرات يعني قرابة 7000 يعني أمنتها له يعني.
Actually, if you take the loan, it is very difficult sometimes, according to the situation, because you never know what will happen.
As the people whom we spoke to have shown us, people borrow money for many reasons. Mostly, people borrow money to buy something that they do not have enough money for an emergency, to invest in something like building a house or paying for children's education. In addition, many migrants who come to Qatar borrow money to pay for their migration expenses. This is because in many cases they are charged a fee by the recruitment agency or by their agent back home. Now we will compare the positives and negatives of taking out a loan to using your own money. One positive attribute of taking a loan is you can get more money than you have in your savings. Also, if you have an emergency, you can get money quickly. Another advantage of taking out a loan is that you do not have to use the money from your savings, hence you can use the money for some other purpose. Now let us look at some of the negatives of taking out a loan. You will have to pay the extra cost of borrowing, which includes interest, fees, and time spent seeking a loan. You will need to repay your loan on time, otherwise you might have to pay extra fees or penalties for late repayment. Instead of taking out a loan, you may choose to use your own money or savings. This too has its positives and negatives. The positive of using your own money is that you avoid the cost of borrowing, so you do not pay any interest or fees. You are also free to use your money as you like, and you do not have to pay back a loan. The negatives of using your own money is that you may not be left with enough to meet an emergency expense or investment opportunities. As we can see, taking out a loan and using your own money both have their positives and negatives. Once you have taken a loan, the resulting debt from the loan you take can be seen as either a good debt or a bad debt. We will now explain the difference. A good debt is the money that you borrow from someone that helps to meet your family's needs or increase your wealth in the future. An example of a good debt is getting a loan to pay for a college degree for your children. It is a good debt because once your child graduates from college, then he or she will earn more money than they would have earned without the college degree. Your child can then provide an additional source of income to your household. Another example of a good debt is a loan taken to expand or start a business, which could potentially increase your wealth in the future. A bad debt is money borrowed that will not increase your personal wealth in the future. An example of a bad debt is borrowing money for something that is not a necessity. Example of a bad debt includes taking out big loans to spend on large weddings or other big celebrations, and also borrowing large amounts of money to build luxury homes. So, a debt is good if using the amount of money you borrowed can bring you or your family more money than before, or helps you meet some of your family needs. A bad debt is when you borrow money for unnecessary expenses that will not benefit you in the long run. Another important point about taking loans is choosing the right lender. The cost of a loan depends on the type of loan you want and the interest rates, fees, and other requirements of the lender. Before you borrow, compare the cost of the loan you want between different lenders. For example, if you get a loan from a bank, then it will have a different cost than getting a loan from your family member. Money lenders usually have a higher cost as they charge a high interest rate. Even within families, people charge some kind of interest rate, but usually it is lower than the interest rate offered by the banks. Sometimes you do not need to pay interest if you are borrowing from family or friends. Before taking out a loan, there are important questions that borrowers should ask a lender, such as, what are the types of loans available? What is the interest rate per year? What are the extra fees or penalties for late payments? What fees are charged? And how long does it take to get a loan? Managing your debt is a very important part of taking a loan. As a borrower, you must be in control of your debt at all times. There are many stories of people working in the Gulf who borrowed large amounts and were unable to repay the money back. This situation causes a lot of stress and anxiety for people and their families. Increasing debt is one of the main reasons people have continuous financial problems. This can happen when you face an unexpected crisis and urgently need money. Whether managing existing debt or deciding if you can afford to take a second loan, make sure your debt obligations will not control your life. You must still be able to pay for your basic needs and daily expenses. A general rule is that your monthly loan repayment as a share of your income should not be more than 20%. For example, let us say Muhammad's monthly income is 1,000 riyals. His monthly loan repayment is 300 riyals. This means that his debt obligation is 300 divided by 1,000, which is 30%. Muhammad should try to reduce this debt to income ratio. Based on the rule, out of 1,000 riyals you earn, you should pay back only 200 riyals instead of 300 riyals. Thus, you should only take out a loan under which you have to pay only 200 riyals per month. What are some warning signs that someone's debt is getting out of control? Taking another loan to pay off an existing debt, borrowing money for daily living expenses. For example, having to borrow money to pay an electric bill or rent. Paying only the minimum required on a credit card as opposed to the full balance. Using savings to repay loans as opposed to using current income. In order to control your debt, there are two guiding principles. The first principle is, do not borrow more than you can afford to repay. And the second principle is, save money regularly for emergencies so you do not always have to borrow.
If you see the life of the normal expatriates, it is a cycle of the debt.